Great. Okay, so I've got my little clicker here, and I'm going to be using it. You should be able to see my screen, and everything is working. And we've got some nice examples. You can follow me also on @Rory Preddy on Twitter. I do 50% Azure updates, 50% memes. So it's always a nice, entertaining view on my Twitter profile. So let's get started. So a little bit about me. So I'm going to stand up here so you can see. So I've got achondroplasia or dwarfism. So I'm about 4'1", which is about 120 centimeters. I forget what France uses in the metric system, or we use, whatever Britain used at the time. And so I'm pretty short, and I bolt on my accessibility requirements, and I have been bolting on my accessibility requirements for many years. So this is my midlife crisis, my BMW 335i, and you can see there I've got my car pedals on it, and I bolted them on, and kind of like bolted them directly. They've only failed like once. Don't tell anyone. And this really is the crux of the talk I want to do. That for many years, accessibility has been bolt on. And you can see there, I'll make a plan. Here I am lecturing at a university, and here I am trying to get coffee at one of my previous employments. And it really is about making a plan when you have accessibility requirements. But what we've noticed in today's time is that accessibility doesn't have to be a bolt-on. So I want to introduce you to someone called the Hydra. And what the Hydra is, it's called the bug Hydra. Because when you have a bug, you chop its head off, and then you're expecting the problem to be solved, but then another head just grows back on. And the reason behind the bug Hydra is because we're doing everything bolt-on, whereas what we should have done is handled our bugs or our accessibility requirements from the beginning. Now, the question I get asked often is, but Rory, how do I do that? It seems like so daunting, and this is really the crux of the presentation I'm doing today, and I'm going to show you how to do that. There's multiple tricks of the trade that you can do to get that Hydra killed. Because if you don't kill the Hydra, what happens is you're going to live in an empathy bubble. So what is an empathy bubble? Now, I'm 4'1", and I can guarantee you a lot of you haven't lived at 4'1". So you don't know what it's like to experience accessibility requirements for everyone, but everyone has their own unique accessibility requirements. So you want to chop the Hydra's head off, but you also want to be able to pop the empathy bubble and understand how your audience or your customers or your developers can handle accessibility. Else, what happens if you don't understand, you don't pop that bubble, you're gonna fail. You can see here's an example of a failure. And well, how does someone in a wheelchair get past those 3 steps? And that was because the individual created that accessibility requirement without truly understanding their audience's requirements. So I've got a plan. First, we're going to define accessibility and what isn't accessible. Then we're going to understand your organization's unique accessibility motivators, stick or carrot. And then we're going to set achievable interim milestones, and then tooling. I'm going to give you some nice toys to play around with it. And then finally, how to measure, improve, and automate using AI and DevOps around your accessibility journey. So first, let's define what accessibility is and what accessibility isn't. Now, normally, people, when they think of accessibility, they think disability. We're going to get to what the definition of disability is now. But here at Microsoft, we define accessibility as the first start of innovation. And it's hard to kind of work that out if you haven't been part of an accessible design process, though. But once you start to think in an accessible way, you include product and service design. With inclusive design, you have accessibility compliance, you get increased productivity, and then innovation, because accessibility is the design of products, services, and environments so that everyone, including people with disabilities, can fully experience it. That means that we don't program for disabilities, but we program for innovation. And it starts also with the definition that disability is not a personal health condition. Now, when you go to a doctor and you say, oh, I'm not feeling too good, and the doctor looks at you and goes, I think you have the disability. That doesn't happen. The only time that you feel disabled is when you have mismatched human interactions. Now, I've got one of those scales that measure BMI. And I've recently, in this COVID climate, actually lost a lot of weight, 16 kilos. But I decided to buy one of the scales, and I got into the scale, and I typed in my weight at the time, 65 kilos, 4'1" or 120 centimeters. And it had a picture on there of a little crawling baby and a man. And I thought, this is not going to end well. So I put there the baby, and I jumped on, and it did its little AI, and it came back and said, "You are obese." And I was like, what? No. And I felt disabled, because the people who had designed the product and with the AI hadn't actually created the inclusive design and included me in the design of the product. And that's really the definition of disability. It's a mismatched human interaction. So now that we have accessibility and disability, let's also look at how you can do accessibility design principles. So introducing WCAG, which is the Web Center for Accessibility Guidelines. And this really has, and I'm not going to go too much into detail with it, but it's got 4 guidelines, which is perceivable. Can you see it? So it defines a principle of creating accessible software as it needs to be perceivable. And that's if you're visually impaired, or if you a silver generation, so an elderly person, you need to be able to create your software so people can see it. Then operable, can you use it? Try navigating through your website with just your keyboard, and you'll see exactly how operable is a very key, important factor with accessible software. Understandable, can you understand it? And what we've noticed also now is accessibility also includes ADHD. So if you have a mouse pointer that kind of shakes there or does something that stresses people, you're not really making something understandable, because you're stressing the individual. And lastly, robust. It won't break future technology. So if you create an accessible software, then you won't, you can't create it that if something fundamentally changes, it will break your software. For example, responsive design. If you have a mobile phone and you turn it around, it shouldn't actually break. It should be responsive. And that's really all I want to go through in WCAG. There are a lot more features. And in the demo, I'm going to show you how to go in and check which WCAG design principles your website follows. Now we've got our definitions done. Let's look at some motivators. Now, there is the stick and carrot. So how do you get a donkey to follow your instructions? You can either take a stick to it, or you can give it a carrot. Now, the stick is the legislation that is being driven primarily by the US 21st Century Integrated Digital Experience Act and the EU Parliament Directorate of Digital Accessibility that says this year, all civil-facing, so government-facing or civil websites have to be WCAG 2.1 AA compliant. All like Canada did, you get a $100,000 fine per day. And that's a big stick to actually be driving with people. And at Microsoft, we have that requirement. So if you have software or a website or even a document, you have to make it compliant. There's also the carrot and the altruistic view. And this is really best summed up by Bill Gates, that says, for most of human history, we put our innovative capacity in improving the quantity of life. More, bigger. Because we're living longer, our focus is starting to shift towards improving the quality of life, looking and holistically creating better experiences for everyone. Remember what I said to you about accessibility? It's everyone can enjoy your product. And once you have that mindset around that it's a carrot rather than the stick, you can start being more aware of others' difficulties. Remember the inclusive design? So it starts with the emotional engagement with your audience. You start with pity, you move into sympathy, you go through empathy. Rory, yes, I remember the empathy bubble. And then finally you do compassion. And you create that awareness. But how do you create that awareness? You do that by understanding the persona spectrums of the people that are using your product. So this is a nice persona spectrum lab that is run by DQ Labs, one of our partners. You can see there's Claudia, Ashley, and Ron is an 82-year-old retired, multiple conditions, arthritis, losing his hearing, cataracts, hip replacements, doesn't use any assistive technology. And what it does is you take that persona spectrum and you run these labs here, And these individuals here would go in as Ron and try and use your website and see the difficulties that Ron would experience with it. Now, you can go in and get all of those persona spectrums. They're freely available at alphagov.github.io, accessibility personas. And then you can start to actually shatter that empathy bubble. So this is part of inclusive design. So you recognize exclusion. You have your persona spectrums. Then you solve for one, extend to many. Now, once you've got those persona spectrums, you need to acknowledge the overlap of those persona spectrums. So, for example, Ron is 82. Ron has failing eyesight, but Ron isn't visually impaired. He's just got failing eyesight. So Ron is the same persona spectrum as someone who was born probably with a cognitive problem with their eyesight. And that means that if you solve it for Ron with his eyesight, you're going to solve and extend that to someone who also has visual impairment, and then learn from diversity. Now, this is a key differential with inclusive design. What it means is that when you finish your persona spectrum in your inclusive design process, to get surveys and feedback to make sure you can go back to the original process and change it. And it's best actually summed up with this nice little persona spectrum example that I've got here. So this is a person who was born or an amputee who doesn't have use of their right arm. So you can see there, I've got one arm, but it's in the same spectrum as an arm injury or a new parent. So the arm injury might be a motorbike accident, but the new parent is cradling their newborn. And I know what you're thinking, but a new parent isn't actually disabled. But I promise you, if you've ever been a parent, you're financially sleep deprived, mentally, you're stretched to your complete limits. Now, if you go to your manager or your customers or your stakeholders and you say, I want to code for that person with limited use on the one arm, and your manager goes, yeah, but how many people is that? That's not a huge number. Yeah, so this is the US Center for Disability Statistics, and the person who has permanent amputee, there's 26,000 in America, but the temporary disability, people who have hurt their arm, there's 13 million. Now, the situational accessibility requirements is an additional 8 million. That means in that persona spectrum alone, you have 21 million. Now, if you go to your manager or your stakeholders or your customers and you say, now I can code it, then it makes sense. But when you look at the holistic view of everyone who has accessibility requirements, there's 1 billion people right now in the world with accessibility requirements. When you take your friends, family, people who are heavily invested in those individuals, there's 3 to 4 billion people that have requirements to ask you to build accessibility software. That's half the world. So these persona spectrums shed light on exactly the importance of creating your software according to your audience and your requirements. So we've got our persona spectrums, then we take and we superimpose them on your app journey. So this is a ticketing scenario that you have the registration, and it's a flight ticket. I do remember flying. One day I'll get back there. You register, you navigate on your shopping cart wizard, and then you check out. Very similar to a lot of the classic wizard-based systems that we have in software. So you have your site landing, your preference, registration, help, login, search flights to get your flight, add to cart, help, checkout, ticketing, and then you have your experience, your survey that may or may not get thrown into the ether. Then you superimpose your persona spectrums. You can see there now everything changes because you're living in that soul of those individuals now. Now I don't have access to my one arm. So how do I log in? And I need responsive design in the site landing. My preferences need to be font and color options, maybe a capture and registration, single sign-in, a help desk so I can phone up someone if I'm not able to use it, a callback help, one button access, voice search, SMS and email for ticketing, one button access, and then right at the end, AI adjustment. And we can work out the AI because right now we can work out, wait a second, did you have accessibility requirements? Did we meet your requirements? And then adjust the entire screen flow dynamically to cater for that person. And that's where the innovation comes, though. So remember, right at the beginning, it's understanding your unique milestones and motivators, creating that inclusive design, and then right at the end is creating that flow of innovation into your system. So now that we've defined the journeys, let's look at milestones and how to incorporate this into a DevOps and an agile project. So normally here you have your wireframe, which is your design of your interface. You've got your product backlog, which is your tasks and your actual work. Then you've got your sprint backlog, and this is using agile sprint. And then you've got your rinse and repeat with Scrum and Sprint. Then you've got your shippable product. And then we bolt on accessibility right at the end. And we've really kind of seen how difficult that is to do. But we have a big drive in the industry to shift left. Now, what does shift left means? And we've seen that now with DevOps, with programming. Shift left means move all of the investment from a large scale right at the end bolt on to a smaller scale integration and being able to do it throughout the process of the design of your application. You can see here we've got a large investment in the traditional design, and then a small investment if we were going to do that as part of the shift left. And what it changes now your process flow to incorporate accessibility throughout the entire design process. When you're doing your wireframe, use one of our tools to actually check, is it WCAG compliant? Then in the product backlog, check whether you're doing compliance. When you do your sprint and Scrum in your DevOps process and your pipeline before you ship it out, have your PR on GitHub or your Git repo actually run one of our rules to check whether you are compliant. And that's the shift left. And now we have everything in place that we can actually start to look at our tools. And I've got so many exciting tools that I want to show you around here. It's like opening up a candy store and showing this. So the first thing I want to show you is accessibility insights. And we're going to go through a demo. I'll stop this and we'll go through the demo. But accessibility insights is the core tool that Microsoft uses to check all of our web, Android, yeah, we do Android also, Windows, CI/CD, GitHub Actions. We've open sourced this tool and made it available for you. And this is the same tool that we use to check www.microsoft.com, docs on Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Learn, anything that you can see there that is accessible. We're mandated and given the culture to use this tool. And now you can also with Accessibility Insights. It's a Chrome and Edge plugin, and you can also run it standalone, which is really exciting. We just launched also the Accessibility Insights for GitHub Actions. I'm going to show you a nice Azure DevOps demo coming up soon. So once you've got Accessibility Insights, how do you incorporate that into your DevOps process? Now, you do that by using the same engine that Accessibility Insights called XCOR, and it's a JavaScript library. You can use NPM, and then scans your rendered DOM. Now, you can call this JavaScript library from Java, from Python, from Ruby. I've spoken about this library in every single language you can imagine. Reports the results as JSON, and it's the same engine that Accessibility Insights using. So you take your developer, your Azure DevOps pipeline, or your GitHub Actions. You do your Yarn test or your Maven test on your output TypeScript or JavaScript, and then it prints out using your Chrome driver or Selenium, your test engine, the actual results. You get a nice little DevOps pipeline that you can see there that the .NET test failed. And you can go in and check some really nice live examples, github.com/Microsoft/X-pipeline samples. And there's some really great examples there using the DQ engine that we use in Accessibility Insights. And you can see there, then you can get that dashboard view, and you can see exactly what your team is doing and whether they're complying to your accessibility requirements. We also have Immersive Reader, and this is very dear to me because this is actually incorporated in all of Microsoft learning tools, Microsoft Office, Edge, and also a lot of our AI tools. And what Immersive Reader does, it scans a page and it gives you a immersive view, as you can see there, clicking on Immersive Reader, and it converts your text that you see there into easy to read text. It caters for people with ADHD, reading difficulties, and it gives you the ability to translate in real time your text. And I'm going to show you a nice little programming example of how to do this with limited or with no changes to your underlying tooling. And what I'm trying to show you is that if you can't fix your accessibility requirements or accessibility issues at the beginning, you can always take Immersive Reader, pop a little button there, and you've got a accessible website without having to break your system. So yeah, so Immersive Reader is actually built into nearly every tool that Microsoft has. You can see that this is Teams, Microsoft Teams, and this has Immersive Reader. We've got on OneNote, Word, Excel, everything that you can think of. And I'm going to do a demo a little bit later also on how to get started with Immersive Reader. So what can Immersive Reader do? It can identify language. So for early childhood reading, this is great. You can also translate into 60 different languages. I'm going to show you how to do it in Parlez-vous français. Pronunciation, so it can read it out. And then syllables. And finally, it also picture tools. And this is built into your Office products. So once you have Immersive Reader and you can plug it into any website, you can also use other cognitive services, Azure cognitive services. So this is a nice little cognitive service called Computer Vision. And what this does, it scans in and gives you captioning with real world kind of similarities. And we entered into the Facebook No Caps challenge. And in that challenge, we beat the a human readable take on captioning. You can see here right at the end there, it says Satya Nadella, Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer posing for a photo. It understands the context of the photo better than a human being. We're going to give you a nice example a little bit later with some demos on how to do that. So great, now it's demo time. I've got a few demos to do with you. I'm just going to get out of my PowerPoint presentation here so I can get, and this is a Mac, and I know the irony is not lost on me that I'm a Java developer working for Microsoft on a Mac. So I've got Chrome here, and I want to go first, and I want to teach you WCAG. Yeah, I know, Rory. Yeah, that's a small little thing. So this is a nice little website, so w3.org, why demos and bad before home. And this is the inaccessible and accessible before and after demonstration to show you about accessibility insights. And this is a City Lights tourist site here. And you can see here in the inaccessible site here, we have what looks like an accessible website. And if you click on the accessible view here, it looks exactly the same. Because what has happened is the programmer has done some disastrously code at the background there, and he hasn't actually followed WCAG principles. So if you see here, and we go to inspect, I'm using Chrome, and you can see here, there isn't a alt tag for that image. We also have, when we look at the list items here, when we go inspect here, what they've done with the list items is they've just used BR tags. They haven't actually used LR tags. So they've done terrible things. Now, if you have a screen reader software, it wouldn't be able to read that. So even though this looks accessible, it isn't accessible. So what do we do here? So first, we've got the Accessibility Insights Chrome plugin plugged in. So I can click on that. So let me go back to the inaccessible version. The accessible version. And if I go to Accessibility Insights, it gives me the option to use landmarks, tab stops, headings, color, automated checks, all of those things I can actually put in and do that. But I want to show you something called FastPass. Now, FastPass checks whether you were WCAG compliant very quickly. So I go FastPass, and this should be WCAG compliant, and it says, yeah, you are compliant. Great. But if I do the inaccessible website and I go into FastPass, I'm expecting to see quite a few violations, but and it gives you a report on the violation. You can see the color contrast is incorrect, WCAG 1.4.3, and you can click through more information, and it'll tell you all around the different colors and what the violation is. HTML lang, it doesn't have an HTML language image alt. There's 33 different images there that don't have alt tags, and you can click through that. And then we also have right at the bottom, we have link names, ensure link names have discernible text, and then select names, ensure select elements have accessible names. Now, that's great, and that's a report, and I can export that result there and send it. But I can also go, if I go into Chrome, I can go into, and it gives me the visual representation of that issue. Now I can click on there and it'll say there is no alt tag there, and I can go file that issue. Watch this, file the issue. I go straight into GitHub and I file the issue. And this is a great way for your testers to test and to do really intricate tests. You can still do the export results, and I can go in there and it'll tell me everything that I need to fix there. I've got inspect HTML, copy failure details, file the issue, and then fix one of the following to get that working. So that's one of the things about Accessibility Insights. We also have the ability to check navigation. Now, if I go to the accessible version of the website and I click through on tab stops, so I'm going to click on tab stops. Now it's going to switch on tab stop. Now if I tab through here, I can see that I can navigate this website pretty easily, and it's all the tab stops are correct. But the inaccessible version, someone did something very terrible. They changed the tab stops without doing a proper job. And if I switch on tab stops here with Accessibility Insights, here, you'll see there that it is non-navigable, goes nowhere. And it's the same with the landmarks and the color contrast. There's so many nice little tools there that you can do. We also have the ability to do an assessment, and this is the full assessment that allows you to go through all of the features in a very low level detail to make sure that you can get even to the AAA compliance of WCAG around that. And it's got details of each one there on how to get started and how to test with design patterns and a lot of nice features. And this is the same library that we use in DevOps. So Rory, you're going to show me a DevOps demo? I am right now. So let's go out of that. And I've got my nice little DevOps demo here. And this is a little Maven test. I am a Java developer. And this test here tests this website. This is a page with no violation. And I've got the X engine running here, example unit tests. And it's going to set it up. It's going to test that page. And I can actually just go in and I'll do one test here. I can just go run the test. And this is going to create, if everything works fine, it's going to bring up my Chromium driver, test that website there, and then come back to me and going, yay, it worked fine. And I can run all of those tests there against the XCOR, and I can get the results back for all of my tests also. So they can actually run there. And this you can plug in to your DevOps process. And I've already got that working in Chrome. So let's go back here. And I've got that in my pipelines here. So I plugged that exact website there into an Azure DevOps pipeline job. And you can see there, I've got my Maven jobs there that they run through all of the actual physical tests there, boop, 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 right at the end there. And then you've got your tests, and then you can create your dashboard here. Let's go for our dashboard summary. You can get a nice view of your dashboard summaries with that. You can see there, I've got that, and I ran this earlier today around my tests there, and I've got all my tests running, 100% completion for those tests. And this is the same engine that can run in Java, .NET, Ruby, JavaScript. It's the X pipelines using the DQ engine. So that's the DevOps pipeline. You push it into there or GitHub Actions, and it starts to test. But what about AI, Rory? You promised me that we're going to do a demo around AI, and I do have a nice demo. The first demo I want to show you is that you can get started now, and we're going to do a nice little challenge. You're going to put it on your Twitter sphere. I want you to try and beat this AI. Now, this AI, remember what I said, the no caps challenge, it actually beat human captioning. So I'll show you what I mean with that. So here is someone, and you can see there, that's an individual playing baseball. And I want to see what the human view of this and the AI. So the captioning there will analyze the image. Now, for me, it's someone playing baseball. But if I put that there and you read an alt text saying someone playing baseball, that won't really help. But the AI says, I think it's a baseball player preparing to swing a bat. What it does, it takes linguistics and also analysis of the image, and it combines them with multiple AI models to give you a proper captioning of the system. This is the same captioning we're using with PowerPoint and Excel, with Edge, and we're building it into it, and you can use it with Azure Cognitive Services Computer Vision. You can go to captionbot demo.azurewebsites.net. we're going to put it on the Twitter sphere also, and then you're going to be able to play around with it. So I've also got a nice demo that I've coded in here. So let's open up that demo file, and let's go open recent. And we want to find the caption bot there. So that's the XCOR thing there. Let's go here, more. And I want to go computer vision. And this is the computer vision that samples that come with the Azure Cognitive Services. So this is the computer vision quick start here. And I've got a nice little image here that I've got printed text, so it can read printed text. And I've also got it looking at that Barack Obama selfie. So if I look at the Barack Obama, let's have a nice little exercise here. I'm going to copy this image. And this is a Wikipedia freely available image here. And let's go back into Chrome. And if I paste that in here, let's see if you can caption that better. So who are these people and what are they doing? So now I put it into my Azure Cognitive Services, the demo that I've done there, and I run this, and it should actually come back and tell me who those people are, and what the captioning is for that image. And I've got my cognitive services already set up on Azure. It's analyzing the image there, and it's going to do, and it says there, wow, okay, I found Bill Nye, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Barack Obama are posing for a picture with confidence that's pretty high confidence because it's 0.5. It also has person, smile, human face. It analyzes their male of age 58, 47, and 51. I'm quite sure Obama was 58 because I think his presidency really kind of aged him. It also looks for sensitive information, is adult or has racy content, the colors, the celebrities. And then I've also got a printed text image there that you can actually use. Let's go look at that printed text demo. Let's go back here, printed text. You can see what computer vision can do also. Let's copy that, go back into that picture and paste that in. And this is a printed text of nutritional facts, and you can see that's cut off the calories there, and it's got some fuzz there, but it actually printed out the text there and got everything correct around that. So computer vision is so really powerful. It can show you exactly what you're looking at, and you can take all your images, you can scan through millions of images and captioning them using alt tags. The next demo I've got is Immersive Reader. Now I've got, you can get started on Immersive Reader on the actual Immersive Reader website. So this is Immersive Reader. You can go to azure.microsoft.com and search for Immersive Reader, and it'll do that. And I've got a last little demo I've got here. And I'm going to just swap my screen up because I want to read you this back in French because I want to show you some of the translation services. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. I'm going to go share my screen, share, Chrome tab, share audio, and then I want to go Immersive Reader. Now watch this here. So I'm going to go, it says Immersive Reader is an Azure Cognitive Services for developers who want to embed inclusive capabilities. I want to do this in French. Now try that under this button here. You can put on your website. So I'm going to show you another demo of how I did that. I'm going to click through here, and it takes that text, and now it creates an immersive experience. And you should be able to hear that. If not, I'll...
Immersive Reader is an Azure Cognitive Service for developers.
So that's one. But what about French? So I want to translate. And I want to translate that into French, Francais. Oh, it's got everything already in French. I want to go and, it's got that in French. I want it rather, because now I'm a little bit lost. I don't speak French. Well, not yet. And I want to go try it out. I want to do this in English, but I want to translate it to French from there. I want to choose a language, and I want to go to French here. Canadian French? No, French France, and the whole document. And now it can actually do.
Immersive Reader est un service cognitif Azure pour les développeurs qui souhaitent intégrer.
Wow, and I did that with limited effort. And I can also go in here and go line focus and picture dictionary, and I can actually do 3 lines and break it up into nouns, syllables, change the font text, and this is so easy to put it into your Immersive Reader cognitive services. So I've got this here. Let's open a Immersive Reader project that I've got. And I want to go cancel that. Let's just get the open there. Hold on, file, and open recent, and more. And let's go to Immersive Reader here. And I've got the Immersive Reader samples that we've got here, quick start, and I've written it in Java because I am a Java developer. And you see here that the Immersive Reader, I'm going to read this web page that I've got in JSP, and it's going to say there, Immersive Reader is a tool that implements proven technology. And I've got this Immersive Reader running in the background on Azure Cognitive Services. So all I have to do is go Maven Tomcat 7:run, because it's a Tomcat server, and it's going to actually.
I'm sorry, we can't see your screen. We're still on the.
Okay, let's go stop screen. Let's go share screen, and let's go back there.
So just
okay, great. Yeah. So let's go back, and you should be able to see my code there. So this is the Immersive Reader actual cognitive services, and I've got my token that it gets the token and it runs there. Now I can actually go into localhost port 8888 localhost, and this is running, and I've coded this. You can see there about Immersive Reader, and this is a button that clicks on it, and it will click through to the Azure Cognitive Services running on my account. And it's about 3 cents per million transaction. That's how cheap it is. And this is running, and you can incorporate this in your development process. As you can see there, I've just got a index of JSP, and it allows you to code in your services as part of your everyday process. And that's really the demos I want to show you. One is I showed you how to use in accessibility insights to get a view to file GitHub issues. Two is that I showed you how to use all of the tooling, the AI tooling and DevOps to get started. And now I've got another challenge of you. I want to show you how to conclude, and important is empathy. We looked at how to pop the empathy bubble. We looked at also on how to create persona spectrums and to drive awareness of that. We also looked at ship left, how to incorporate it with accessibility in your DevOps pipeline, and then how to automate with AI. Now, there's only one link I want to give you around how to get started, Microsoft.com/accessibility. It has everything in there. It has the AI demos, it has the caption bot, it has the accessibility insights. So if you go to Microsoft.com/accessibility, that's all you need to do to get yourself started on this journey. Thank you so much, and let's take some questions. I look forward to answering some questions.